I mean, what were your impressions? What were your initial impressions on Rip? Like, did you know him at all? Anybody smart you up with
No,
Rip or?
that first night before the show, I'd watched him on television, and I met him at a bodybuilding contest my first contest. I was 18 years old in
Okay.
Columbus, Indiana, and but I mean he didn't remember me from that. But so right before the match, a lady knocked on the door to the locker room, and I answered the door, and she was like, "Is Mark in there?" And I was like, "No." And Danny was like, "She's talking," and she said, "Rip Rogers." And I was like, "Oh, so Rip's wife knocked on the door. I didn't know who she was. And I was like, oh. So
He's
that's
calling you
like the
Mark.
first time I really talked to him was to tell him his wife was at the door. And and then later he told me to put him in the rack. So it was kind of trial by fire, because Rip looks really scary. I mean, we were probably the same size at the time, but he was an older veteran that had been around, and he looked so. When you watched him, you thought, man, this guy's just vicious. But what I found out was he could just work, and that's the key to it. Is look like you're killing people, but believe me, I was always hitting him harder than he was hitting me.
So what'd you think? What did you think going to OVW at that time and working all these young new guys? I mean, I guess when I was going in or in college at that time, me and Nick were actually in a class together, and I saw Nick wrestle Rip. I think it was his first. He still had the singlet on and the headgear on and all
Yeah,
that
that's
kind of
before
stuff.
I even started watching him.
And I was going because I was in college at IU Southeast, so I would go and watch the show like Wednesday night or whatever. And of course, I've known Rip since I was born, but I never really thought about it until now. What was it like for you going back in? Like, how old were you? 30s, late, early 40s? What were you then?
What year was this, Rob?
I started in '97.
Okay, so I was 43 years old.
Yeah.
And then going and working all these guys. What was that like?
And I was like 24.
Right. So he's just going to be reaching his peak, and I'm fucking trying to hold on to any kind of glory, or if I can walk without limping or whatever. But I got a chance to really help these guys, and attitude's everything. Because Rob already had the body, and you knew he was an athlete, so he could get this shit. He's got discipline. A lot of those guys was just they could wrestle, but they just look like carny hillbillies or whatever. If you don't look good, if you look good, you're going to get any job over somebody else that comes in there because they know you got discipline. They know you will do what you're told. You're respected because you got enough balls to go on a diet and train. So when you come in there, I said, this guy's already got the body. Now the easy part's going to learn how to work. Because some guys can learn how to work in a couple of years, but then they still look like shit. You already did the hard part, and you were well known around there. I
appreciate that. It was learning the moves wasn't that hard. What you said, learning to work.
Yes.
Like I remember going up to the top rope. Danny said, go to the top rope. I did. Nick slammed me off the top. He said, it looked great. You want to do it again? I said, nope, I'm good.
Yeah.
If I've got it, I don't want to do it more than I have to. But what I was always trying to find out is, when do I go to the top? Why do I go out to the top? When do I get the most reaction from doing this? Because even though you get a little bit numb to it, it still all hurts. So I don't want to go doing it for no reason.
I mean,
yeah, I jumped off the top one time with a knee drop where I took my knee pad down. I had half a golf ball in my knee for I don't know how long. And I said, oh, I learned that in one time. I will never, ever in my life do that again. I got the dumbass award.
So
the only way you learn is by messing up.
Failing, yes. You learn from failure.
When you do things right, you don't even learn. You just do them right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's when you mess things up and then you go, okay, I'm going to screw up every match, but I ain't going to screw that up again. So if you keep making the same mistake over and over, you're not going to get it. But the idea is understanding that you're going to make mistakes. And I wouldn't say encourage people to make mistakes, but you can't be so scared to make mistakes that you can't. You got to swing for the fence.
Yeah. a billfold. So swole that I can't get the shit closed. So I money fold and rubber band wrap. And when it pop